Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Scions Recap Show. My name is Akshay Ishwaran, and joining me from beautiful Midtown Atlanta is a man who never takes voting for granted, Mr. Jake Grant. How are you doing today, sir?
That was a terrible pun, but it's so true. I'm doing fine. You could say that I've been optimizing my day, and by that I mean I spent all of it doing optimization. So maybe that's not actually optimized. Isn't that quite the
When
conundrum?
did when did you turn into an industrial engineer?
This is an ME class, though, sir. So I can lie to myself.
Yeah, you see, grad school, grad school is just an acquired taste.
It really is, and I'm yet to acquire it.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of things that Tech has yet to acquire, a win in football in the last couple of weeks. That's definitely on the list. But they did acquire a podium finish in cross country. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some games from around the ACC. I think it was a pretty eventful week, all considered, with Boston College giving Clemson a scare, and then some action in Charlottesville. But yeah, missing anything here?
I don't know if you caught that over on your end of the recording, but the whistle just went off as the sun sets here, so that's kind of cool.
That's always interesting. I looked out my window to see if I could see the whistle without putting together that I live in an interior facing apartment nowhere near campus. That
Yeah.
is not smart.
Oh well.
All
Also,
right.
you just heard that Slack come through, but this is a cut rate
Uh,
operation we run here, Akshay. So that's
We
life.
really thrive on the moments. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about some cross country. They were at the ACC Championship meet. Am I correct in that?
Yes, sir. Cary, North Carolina.
Ooh boy. All right. Tell me a little about what they did there.
All right. So I got good news and I got bad news. What do you want first?
Let's go with bad news first.
All right. Bad news is that the men who were having a fine little season to themselves before this, wound up finishing towards the bottom of the pack in the ACC, which is not ideal. They
Certainly.
had a couple second place finishes in some of their regular season competition, but had fallen off down the stretch a little bit. They came in 12th out of 15. We were looking middle of the pack hopes, more or less, for Georgia Tech, and their top finisher Andrew Kent led the way in 54th. So not ideal, but again, this is the I guess the bright spot is this is not the team that we had some higher expectations for. So with that, the good news is the women finished second, which is quite good.
Very, very good. Some might say stupendous.
It's their best finish in conference ACC conference history. Um, a lot of times when you see like, oh, we got runner up, we got second, why didn't we get first? Like so close, kind of thing. Because I know that was my first thought, not remembering that NC State is fourth in the country and we were 25th. And the fact that we kind of edged our way up past a couple of the other ranked teams in the conference is definitely a good look for us. Yeah, no, with that, we got three top 15 finishers. Senior Nicole Fegans, I don't know how you say it. I'm sorry. I've never heard anybody say it out loud before. So that was a good as guess as any. And then two juniors, Mary Catherine Knott and Liz Galarraza. So yeah, good job to the three of them getting all ACC, and then everybody was across the line in the top 40. So a couple seniors rounding out the top five for Tech.
I think it's also important to note that NC State, I think, has won almost every single ACC cross country championship for the past 20 years.
Yeah, it's something like that. I have that on my computer. I could pull it up, but yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
They're horrifically awfully disappointing in football. men's basketball, baseball, women's basketball before this year. But when it comes to women's cross country, you know, they're if that's what gets you going, that is
Hey, NC State, you gotta take what you can get. College athletics is a brutal, brutal marketplace.
it really is. At least we're all not Boston College, because I did the math. This is a bit of an aside, but invented a metric to see just how futile some teams are and schools are at winning titles, and Boston College is a fat one for every other opportunity since they got to the conference in '04, I believe. So that one
Hmm.
men's soccer championship is collecting some dust by now.
Well, at least they have a men's soccer team. It's a little bit more than we can say right now.
That is true, but we do have a golf team that's like the three-time defending conference champions. So
Take what you can get.
exactly.
All right, shall we move on to go around the ACC?
Sure.
All right, you know the drill. I'm going to read out the score and the time, and you're going to give me some hot takes. All
Oh,
right.
hot takes, sir.
The nooner on ACC Network, Wake Forest 38, Syracuse 14.
All right. I don't think that this played out much differently than I thought it would play out. I don't think Syracuse is all that good. Maybe Wake scored a little bit more than I thought, but I think this was pretty chalky. I think we went 4 for 4 on our from the Rumble Seat staff picks for this game. So
Yeah, Cuse is not good. And it really makes me think things. We'll get there. Uh, Other nooner, and this one was on ABC, and it caused a bit of a clamor on the social medias. Boston College 28, number one Clemson 34.
yeah, well, just goes to show that perhaps the transitive property doesn't work in football. Boston College definitely gave Clemson more of a fight than I think anybody really gave them credit for. Clemson has looked like the unstoppable juggernaut, but this is them in post Trevor days. Really, it was a window into what they're going to look like in the future, and in the future, they're still pretty darn good. So even a 2-score lead, pretty deep into the game, wasn't really all that safe, and I don't think that was surprising. I think what was more surprising was just how long Boston College held on, and the fact that they were competitive deep into the fourth. It's a 1-score 6-point game. That's about as good as you can ask against the team that has dominated
So,
the conference.
so you did pretty well with the cross country last names. I need you to say the Clemson quarterback's last name. You
Oh
know the
Lord,
exact one that I'm talking about.
I don't even have it written in front of me. I couldn't say it off the top of my head.
Google it. Google it.
Google it. Okay, Clemson, not Trevor QB. Let's see what that is.
Very good search terms.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Also, Trevor Lawrence is no longer the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy at multiple sports books. All right. Wow, they have not even mentioned the other guy's name yet, and I'm all the way down here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. 5-star
DJ.
freshman DJ Ugalele.
Okay, so
We
ukulele is close, and we should definitely not spend a lot of time on this. Let's see. I had the so you can search pronunciation. So let's see here how to pronounce it. Uh, Ui Ungalele.
wow.
It's Lele or Ui Ungalele is how you say it according to the Clemson message boards, which I feel are going to give my computer a virus. So I'm going to click away from there. Uh,
I wound
let's
up
skip.
I wound up in an Ohio State message board doing some preview work for Notre Dame because they had some historical post about, them flirting with the Big Ten and whatever. And I'm glad that my computer still functions after visiting like gobucks.com or whatever that
Oh
was.
God. Yeah. I'm sure like Texags is probably even worse, but that's, we'll get there whenever we play A&M, whenever that is.
Before before we go on, I would like to issue a correction to the cross country last 20 years or whatever thing. NC State has actually only won 4 in a row, but they have won 25 out of the 42 women's cross country offered, if that makes sense, dating back
Okay.
to 1978. They won uh, the first 3, then lost 2, then another 3, then lost 1 to Clemson, and then won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 out of the next 16. So
Yep.
you got
That
the
is what you
spirit of the
Yeah,
street.
spirit rather than letter of the law. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, let's
So
move
another
on.
comment on the Boston College thing.
Oh my God.
Our official from the Rumble seat adjusted sadness rating for a Boston College is a negative 1134 on a scale from it broke the scale really. They're the only team in the negatives, so rip them.
This is a new rating system to me, and you're gonna have to explain it later after we get off the air here.
Yeah, sure thing. Just know that Georgia Tech comes in the middle of the pack for everybody who was worried about that.
That's different. Anyway, moving on. The 4 p.m. game on the ACC network, Virginia Tech 42, Louisville 35.
Um, yeah, I think Virginia Tech was probably supposed to win this game, and then they won. They won the game again. That's not a very inspiring answer. It's been a pretty, I don't want to say chalky season for us over at our picks, but once again, the only person who lost this week was you, and I don't know what Louisville
Aha.
saw that made you want to pick them, but I
To be
think
fair, it looks like they gave VT a game. I
they
don't
did.
want that to get lost here.
And Virginia Tech does have more players back, which is surprising. You'd think that their results would accelerate or improve or something,
You'd
but
think.
that's that's a trap.
Let's scroll down to the win probability graph here. Okay, so VT opened a 21-point lead in the middle of the second quarter. So that's not good. Let's see. Louisville storms back, gets within 10. Honestly, I think this was just a crock potting. That's what it makes it look like.
That's a good old
Anyway,
fashioned crock potting to you.
indeed. Speaking of a game that was definitely over well into the first quarter, the 7 p.m. on your local regional sports network that is no longer available on YouTube TV or Hulu. Charlotte 19, Duke 53.
Yeah. Oops.
Womp
Just
womp. This one, not
just
much to say here.
yeah, I was gonna say I'm not convinced Duke is all that good, but I didn't realize Charlotte was that bad.
Well, Charlotte's also a new program. I like what they're doing in their little neck of the woods in North Carolina. It's just like there is still a definite step up in quality, even if it is Duke.
Yeah, I'd say that's
All
fair.
right. The nightcap on the ACC network at 8 p.m. Number 15 UNC 41, Virginia 44.
This one definitely surprised me.
Indeed. Yeah, I guess I didn't watch this game, but and we were talking about this before we started recording. It would have been real fun for UNC to go into the bye week undefeated. And there's we're probably in like the one or two universes where it didn't actually happen. Because they probably should have beat FSU pretty handily, and they probably should have won this game pretty handily too. But I think it's something that we saw in the first week versus Syracuse is that UNC, sometimes when the competition is worse, they just can't. They play a little bit down to the opponent, and they just can't put them away
Yep.
when it gets late.
Yeah. I think UNC belies its fact, maybe not as a mediocre team, but definitely as a team that's not used to being good, you know?
Hmm.
Like a good team wins that game.
Hmm.
UNC
And
is a pretty good team, an okay team. Good for the conference for them to be okay, but like, meh.
yeah, this is not a particularly ooh, excuse me, a particularly inspiring performance from UNC. So bad, in fact, that it made me yawn mid-recording. Um, but now to talk about an even less inspiring performance on the football field. Uh, Very good segue, me pat on the back.
Good
Uh,
job.
Georgia Tech versus Notre Dame. Let's talk about the cliff notes here. 31 to 13 Notre Dame. Notre Dame played like a top five team. Um, and they played in Georgia Tech's usual home colors. There's a couple things
I
very ironic about what happened on Saturday.
I was gonna say I've been sitting on an anecdote. I don't know if I even told you this, but the person sitting next to me at the game um, started asking very confused questions when Notre Dame scored their opening touchdown because the team in white and gold with blue numbers had just scored. Um, because they were like, "Oh, I thought Notre Dame was the black team." So
Oh,
that was uh, it.
that was
It would have
a
been funny if it didn't just like kill me a little bit on the inside, you know?
yeah, and I think just for more context, this was the Black Watch game
Yeah,
for Georgia, honoring the 1980s, late 1980s Black Watch defense. Um, the uniforms looked fine. I think we had this discussion earlier in the week, both in the writers' room, on social media, and I think in a couple articles. They looked fine. It's just that I think that it was kind of a read the room situation, right?
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I know you had some other varied criticisms of them as well, and I think most of it for both of us had to do with, well, you dumped a bunch of money into making sure that everyone's standardized on white and gold, and now we're talking about black uniforms.
Yeah, it drives me a little bit nuts.
A little bit. Mm.
Just just a little bit nuts. But I don't know. I think they could have done worse. But I still don't really love it. If I think that's a fair way to
Yeah,
have my bet
that's
on that.
yeah, and again, like they were as uniforms alone, they were pretty good, like pretty good to find, like not dissing it there, like the video that they put out the day before the game, with Trace Willing and the remix of Paint It Black from, what was it, ACDC?
That was
Uh,
really good.
it
That
was
was
very well done,
exceptional,
and
in fact.
like I think a lot of credit goes to the marketing department and the branding department for putting together content like this. It's um like I graduated from tech or I started tech in 2015, back when the marketing department was still running on a bit of a shoestring budget, and you definitely didn't see things like this.
No, not at all.
Um, and s- and so having it, definitely, like I definitely am appreciative of it. Um, I think the on-field performance stands in much contrast to the quality of the media that Tech put out for this game, in a lot of ways. And I think it was once again a bit of a disappointing outing, on the field.
Yeah, I think that uh, that's probably a fair hedge to put on it. I think another thing that comes back to the Black Watch and kind of ties into the disappointing outing on the field is that of all the defenses to honor, with all the teams that could have honored them, I don't think that this was the right time. And I know this has deep personal significance to a lot of Tech fans that maybe I don't appreciate as a
You
young
youth,
person, as a youth, and also
a
a
Gen
parent,
Z.
like not even a parent to Todd Stansbury. Listening to the Toddcast, you hear him say, because Andy Demetra's like, oh, like, do you want a black watch uniform? And he kind of shrugs off. He's like, oh no, I never earned that, which I thought was like a testament to the power of what the actual black watch was. Like it wasn't just
Hmm.
a like a thing that everybody wore because the whole defense was really good. It was like, no, the best of the best on a solid defense got the black watch, and
Hmm.
give it out as a participation trophy feels a little bit dirty. I already don't like the black.
Oh boy, oh boy.
You know,
Participation. You're calling it. Don't. Let's walk that one back.
a participation trophy. It is. I'm not
I,
walking that back.
I would not. Okay, I'll let you finish your tirade.
It no, okay. It every player on the team got it. That's like antithetical to the point of the black.
Fine,
Is it not?
fine,
Okay.
fine. Continue, continue.
I didn't mean it in like a own the like this is like a comment on society or something like that. No, it's just that's what the black was. Um, this is not a political podcast. I refuse to let you insinuate that I'm trying to make it one. Um,
God, you boomer.
I am a boomer. Um,
We've
but
called you Gen Z and a boomer in the same breath. Okay, just
yeah.
get to the point here.
The point is, black's not our school color. The defense wasn't great, but I don't doubt the deep personal significance that it holds for Todd Stansbury being his teammates and his friends, and his defense that he was on.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I was surprised to learn that Jeff Collins had a Black Watch poster in his room, but that's personal significance to him too, and it makes sense. Defensive-minded head coach, you want to honor a defense, but like it just doesn't feel like we're there yet. Like if you whip this out in 3 years or 2 years, and Jeff Collins has a lockdown, incredible defense that like stokes fear into the heart of many, I think that that's a really effective promotion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even with the whole like in the past it was not everybody got it or whatever, like that's a curmudgeony thing, and you're never going to have that in the day of standardized uniforms, standardized TV. Like it's just not how it goes. So like that
Hmm.
I can kick that can to the side. But no, if you look at the virtual ticket sheets that they're giving out for $10 a pop, you can tell that this was the plan all along. The one for Mercedes-Benz um, is a black ticket base. Like it. This was the plan all along. Um,
Yeah, that would have been interesting in Mercedes Benz. I I think it would have been interesting. I think that's all I can say about that. And it definitely has been in the works for a while. I think we were having a conversation on Twitter where someone had noted like, hey, like this has been in the works for a couple years. Like this has been in progress. Like we've known about this and been working about this. And like it's again, it's cool to I think I said this in one of our mailbags. It's great to see Tech embrace its history, its rich athletic history in uniforms like this. And I'm never gonna say no to doing something like this. The problem is I think you touched on it a little bit. The problem is when the unit that you're honoring, or the current version of the unit that you're honoring, is not doing so hot, and it just seems a little out of step.
I
And that's what we saw
Yeah,
today
I
or
I agree
Saturday.
with that, and I think I will hedge what I said and what you just said with one thing. The scoop and score was the perfect. This was the perfect game for them to do that. 99
Oh
yards,
yeah.
run it all the way back. You know,
So
obviously they
let's
didn't do
talk.
that on purpose or anything like that, but I think you can call that the highlight of what was otherwise a very meh game to watch.
It was a crock potting. It was a crock potting.
You
It
use
it
your
looked
your and your slogans and sayings. I don't know what you're talking about.
You need to listen to more solid verbal. To be clear, this was a game that seemed in reach the entire time, but Notre Dame was actually in charge the entire time.
Yeah.
So let's start with the scoop and score. The scoop and score was when it was what 7-zip. Notre Dame was in the red zone. Um, pretty bent on scoring again, and I forget who ripped the ball out, but and I
Wanye.
also forget Wani rips the ball out, and who picked it up and ran it back? I think it was
Mari
Zamari
Walton
Walton.
straight down the sideline.
Yeah, so that was early in the first quarter, right? Probably the maybe middle-ish, probably. So you start there. You have a Notre Dame team that has had basically two drives at that point. Tech has sort of gone three and out on its first drive. Um, but the score is 7-7. I think everyone's feeling good at that point. Everyone's feeling like Tech is in this game. The defense has shown up today. Um, like we're in it. We can put together a fight. And then Ian Book and Kieran Thompson um, just sort of put a lot of dents in that armor.
Yeah. I think the one gigantic play to tie the game at 7-7 feeling against Notre Dame was very similar to the one gigantic play to tie the game at 7-7 against Clemson feeling.
Yeah, except what I, I think this one it was just whole lot of like very methodical offensive work by Notre Dame.
Yep.
Um, a lot of running the ball, um, a lot of short to medium pass plays. Ian Book wasn't throwing the ball downfield a whole lot, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Um, and whereas with Clemson, Trevor Lawrence was putting the ball wherever and whenever he wanted, and he would find a receiver.
Yep.
Um, and this stat from our friend Robert's advanced stats breakdown on the blog was really stood out to me. Notre Dame had a one expected point uh, expected points added average or margin better than Georgia Tech per called pass play. And he summarized the effect of that as this. That means every time a passing play was called in this game, regardless of whether it was Georgia Tech or Notre Dame throwing the ball, Notre Dame put a point on the board, effectively put a point on the board. That's just the ability that Notre Dame had to pick its spots and pick its moments and um, make effective use of those, both running the ball and throwing the ball, just sort of dazzled and a Georgia Tech defense that's having a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I,
Um,
I think you touched on this. I think you touched on this when we were or when we started, or right before we started. One of the big reasons why this Georgia Tech team is having trouble is it just can't get off the field. It's doing really good on those early downs, right? It's holding teams to first and 10 and then second and long, but then that third and long, that third and long might be third and medium, and that gets converted, or they turn that third and long into a fourth and short. Opponents do, and that's where you're seeing them have trouble getting off the field and ending series early.
yeah. I my favorite Slack quote I think of the game was that second down is the new money down because we did have not advantages, but pretty repeat success getting them in a position that's theoretically favorable.
Hmm.
But it just didn't hold. It didn't hold. And their rate on money down, Choa down, third down, space chords down, whatever the heck you want to call it, was I think that's
Well, it certainly was not making Choa a lot of money.
yeah, exactly. I think that's a linchpin in the we thought the defense would be better argument right
Hmm.
there is, like if you have opportunities on like 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9, they shouldn't be able to.
You got to finish.
Yeah, you can't let them convert on that as regular as they do. Even on the opening drive where Notre Dame scored the touchdown, right? We
Hmm.
instantly have them at 1st and 20 at midfield or past midfield. You should be able to put together a stop on that, right? And immediately we
Hmm.
give all that advantage right back, and boom.
Yeah,
Granted,
so just to add some color, sort of some statistical color to that. So Notre Dame was 10 of 15 on third down, and tallied 24 total first downs. They didn't have any fourth downs to convert. So yeah, it was a bit of a rough go on late downs. Let's switch over to talking about the offense for a second, because I think that's something. I don't know how to describe this performance. I know Robert sort of touched on a couple of things here and there in his recap, and I think Jeff did the same in his. I think one of the big things was Notre Dame was able to get a lot of pressure, and they also just they because they were working so methodically on offense, they just didn't give Tech that much time to work with the ball at all. If I have the numbers over here. Uh, I think this the margin of time of possession sort of downplays what it felt like, honestly, and what it was at times. But at the end of the game, Notre Dame had the ball for 37 minutes, and Tech had it for about 23 minutes. But at one point during like the second quarter, the Georgia Tech offense was on the bench for a full half hour in real time.
yep,
That's a lot of time.
yeah. Um, I just, I don't know. I like what the offense is doing this year compared to last year.
Oh,
I,
absolutely.
I just don't feel like I got a read on them yesterday or Saturday. Like
Mhm.
like it's improvement. It feels better, but it still doesn't feel all that effective. And we talk about getting Notre Dame into 2nd and 3rd and longs. It felt like we were playing from that all game, And
Mhm.
again, this is vastly different to the uh, you know, you're gonna get break off long runs or be working from an efficient yardage pretty much all the time in the triple, or if you have like a Clemson running game, watching that or watching Boston College work, it's just very apparent to see the difference between that and our effectiveness on that side of the ball.
And I think you also had the usual standard of the weird turnovers that Tech has had recently. Like there was the Sims sack fumble midway through the game that I think kind of just completely flipped the game on his head and sort of took Tech out of it completely.
That was
Um,
immediately after that big pass play too, right?
yep,
Yes.
I think so.
Putting us deep in plus territory. Yep. Hmm.
And fumble. Um, and Robert says it pretty well, or he has some stats that I think tell the story pretty well. Uh, on Georgia Tech was stuffed on 26% of its rushes. It Sims in the pocket was pressured 29% of pass plays, and Notre Dame was able to generate a havoc event or havoc play on 30% of Georgia Tech's offensive plays. It's They were able to get so much pressure and disrupt so much, and it was hard for a young offense to handle. Although I will say the one bright spot in Saturday's performance again was Jahmyr Gibbs. He did a lot of good work, especially out of the backfield. Robert noted here, Gibbs had a success rate of 62%, which is far higher than I think anyone else on the team.
Yep. That's what we like to see, isn't it?
Hmm. And I think he's been super consistent at being good, and I think that's been a I said it was a bright spot in this game, but it's been a revelation to watch this season so far, and I've really enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah. I said this after the Louisville game. vaulting that last 2 yards to go into the end zone is going to be a play that defines this season. I think I'm okay with that. If we can say we have a transcendent star running back who we can build around, we have this young quarterback who's shown flashes of pretty good talent. We can build around that. I don't know. I'm not trying to excuse a lot of the problems with the offense, but we do have talent in the receivers room, even if we don't talk about it as much as we do the running backs. It's not the same level of talent, but they're, quality players, and I don't know. I didn't expect to say that I have less issues with the offense in year 1, year 2, whatever you want to call this, of the Jeff Collins era. I figured it would be the defense transitions. They get better under defensive-minded head coach because, defense doesn't play triple option or whatever the legendary challenge of transforming this team is. And meanwhile, you have to go to work at the offense. And I feel like it's very weird that the offense is like, yeah, they only scored 13 points a game. They don't average all that much. They have the drubbing of Louisville, but, not terribly much else going in terms of just racking up points. But I think they've shown us some signs they can do it. And I think if Davey P gets a little bit more.
Oh God, I'm not even gonna comment on that one. We're gonna keep moving.
But you know what I'm saying. If he can, I'm not gonna say play it fast and loose, but just get a little more imaginative with the play calling, and I think we have a good base to build off there. And I don't, like I said, I didn't really see that coming.
Yeah, no, I think this goes back to something that we were talking about last week, where I think we expected to see progress on both fronts, both the offense and the defense. And I think there has been demonstrable progress on the offensive front. I think it comes down to the issues there have just come down to red zone execution and weird turnovers, really.
Yep.
And the ways to fix that are, one, keep playing football. To a certain extent, like you just kind of have to work through those things with a young quarterback. And the other piece is keep improving on the offensive line. And I think that comes down to recruiting, and that's something that we need to keep an eye on moving forward. On the defensive side of the ball, and I know we commented on this last week. And you said it again here. When you hire a defensive-minded coach, you expect significant improvement on the defensive side of the ball. And I think it's the same case as last week. I'm still looking for that significant improvement. He has time. I think the same way we hedged last week. We're not calling for anyone's job. We're not blaming anything on players or anything like that. I think our goal is to see improvement, and we definitely saw it on the offensive side of the ball. Like, we can see growth. We just want to see it on both sides of the ball and be competitive in some of these games where Tech can be competitive and does show signs of life.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it, and I'm not going to do what you just said a disservice by,
by following it up.
By following it up and saying the same damn thing.
Hey, never mind the fact that I basically did the exact same thing. Anyway, we should move on. Just to finish up our discussion on the Notre Dame game. New SP Plus ratings did come out. Tech has fallen to 68th overall. Woo! Either fallen or remained in the same place. I don't remember what last week's were. Anyway, they had the 70th ranked offense, 63rd ranked defense, and 99th ranked special teams. Speaking of special teams, one, I guess, final note on the Notre Dame game. We did have that one very, very badly shanked field goal. Yeah, I don't got words for that one. That one's just a big old shrug from me. Not ideal.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, Presley looked a little bit off. I'm not really sure if that was just me sitting in a different spot in the stadium or something than usual. I know the average yardage was a little bit down, but I don't know. Just didn't really. I thought that was worth mentioning at least.
Mhm. Although to his credit, Mike Golick, who was on the call, I think it was Mike Golick, um, did did sort of look at him and comment on his like his punting ability and sort of re-emphasize what I think all of us in the writers' room are thinking that Harvin has a really good chance to be a good punter in the National Football League.
Yeah.
All right. So that about wraps it up for Notre Dame. This week is a bye week. So enjoy your 1 week of relaxation, as it were. The next game for Georgia Tech football is in 2 weeks versus Pittsburgh. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern on your local regional sports network. We can save a preview of that for next week's episode, since we're already running out of time. So, do you want to rapid fire some picks real quick?
Sure, let's do it.
All righty. Saturday, November 7th
There's a
has a
Friday night game.
couple of games, but I was getting there. Segue. But Friday night has one particular ranked matchup, or it was ranked on one side at least. The 7:30 on ESPN, number 11 Miami at North Carolina State.
Give me the Canes.
Yeah, give me the Canes. This one's easy. NC State was ranked last week
Yeah,
before that though.
UNC game.
Yeah, and then they got drubbed. So
Yup.
yeah, I think Devin Leary was the starter to start at the beginning of the season for North Carolina and State, and he had an injury that ended his season, or will keep him out for a while. And the backup is just not that good right now.
Yeah.
Uh, move Moving on, the nooner on ESPN2 on Saturday. The rivalry game, North Carolina at Duke.
Give me North Carolina.
Yeah, this is a Tar Heel win through and through. I don't think Duke has the horses to keep up. But I have seen weirder results with North Carolina recently, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't know. I just don't think Duke has enough, even if they do really come to play. So
It's at home in Wallace Wade Mausoleum.
ah, everybody's favorite mausoleum.
Everyone's favorite black and blue painted mausoleum. Anyway, moving right along, the nooner on ACC Network, number 25, Liberty at Virginia Tech. This
Mm,
one's a tough one.
I'll take Virginia Tech.
Do I want to pick Liberty here? I don't. I just okay, fine. Give me Liberty. I feel dirty about it, but I like winning things sometimes.
Yeah. See, it's dirty, and if it was a different solid non-con group of five, whatever, I would pick them. But I just, vendettas are a fun thing.
Especially when you're watching from afar.
Hmm.
There's that joke's got layers to it, kids. You should don't look it up. Trust me. Um, the 2 p.m. on, I think this is on an RSN, Boston College at Syracuse in the battle of who beat Tech worse.
I'm going to take BC.
Yeah, this one's Boston College. We need to separate here. I think we'll get some separation on the next one.
Yeah.
Which
Who's
the
up next?
next
Pitt.
next one. Oh God, you're ruining my transitions here with your speech. the 4 p.m. on ACC Network, Pittsburgh at Florida State. And this one's interesting because Pitt without Kenny Pickett, and the way that defense has regressed in recent weeks is an interesting matchup versus um, a Florida State team that seems like it's on the right track? Question mark.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm probably going to take Pitt here just because I don't think Florida State is all that consistently good. But I'm pretty much ahead, a toss up on this one.
Interesting. I think I'm gonna go with Florida State just for the memes, honestly.
Fair enough. All right.
All right. The big one with college game day afoot is the 7:30 between Clemson, still number one Clemson by a single AP poll vote, at number 4 Notre Dame, and that one's on NBC.
I'll take Clemson.
Yeah, I need Clemson to keep Georgia out of the playoff. So give me Clemson.
Yep, same thought here. Okay, one more, right?
What's up?
I said we got one more, right? There's a lot this week.
Yes, we do. Yeah, there's a lot, and I am already tired. The last one is the 8 p.m. on ACC Network, Louisville at UVA. Give me your one-word pick here.
UVA.
Louisville.
Boom. Wow.
All right.
It did get interesting at the end. Go us.
Ooh, spooky. 2 days after Halloween, and we're getting spooky. All right. Any final thoughts before we call it?
Can't say I do. Hopefully we defeat the bye week again.
Yeah, that would be good. This is Tech's second bye week of the season, as determined by the big ACC scheduling machine in the sky. So I guess there is the caveat that if there is some sort of COVID situation down the road for Georgia Tech, obviously we're hoping that there isn't. There's not a lot of scheduling flexibility left. Because you don't have the bye weeks anymore. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. However, I think things have been handled pretty well on campus. Obviously, we're seeing stuff get a little worse across the country, but on campus, at least, things are mostly okay, I would say, right?
Yep. I feel pretty comfortable. So hopefully they stay safe too.
All right. I guess that is about it. Listeners, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.